Have any of you ever been in a store, a Tops, a Walmart, and you hear a child screaming? The parent's trying to tend to that child, but you're wondering, why is that child doing what they're doing? Why hasn't that parent taken care of that child? What are they not doing that they should be doing? Can you imagine having every eye in the store on you, having those people stare at you and make faces of disgust? I have. Now imagine being in the shoes of that child where it's horrifying at times. According to Lori Seeley of The Mighty, she lives with autism every day of her life. By definition, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder that is often characterized by varying degrees of struggle with social interaction, verbal, nonverbal communication, sensory processing, and restricted or repetitive behaviors. She describes personal experiences as the behavioral chicken hatching out of the psychological egg. It's of importance to her because when people with autism seem to be behaving badly, it's often because they're hurting badly. I personally live and love autism every single day of my life, and his name is Connor. Connor's 8 years old, and anyone that meets him falls in love with him at first sight. I'm standing here before you today to share the awareness that is not out there. It seems as though a lot of people don't have a good understanding of autism. And I want to spread that word, and I want to share my personal experiences to help those people find their way. By the end of this speech, my goal is to give you a better awareness of autism and to be able to share it if you choose to do so. Connor was born at 2:49 a.m. on June 10th, 2010. He was born by emergency C-section, and when he was given to me, I remember the nurses and doctors telling me that he was perfect, he was healthy, there was nothing wrong with him. Until the day that it came that I was going to be released from the hospital. When that day came, they didn't release Connor. Connor had to stay because he was jaundice. Jaundice is a yellowish stain of the whites of the eyes and the skin. Christian Nordquist from Medical News Today quoted, "A baby with neonatal jaundice, meaning jaundice within a few days or weeks of being born, has higher risk of being diagnosed with autism." It was definitely scary, but not every story of autism starts out the same. Later on in life, I found out with Connor that it's genetics. He received it through his father. I'd never heard of such a thing until I did my research. I've seen numerous physicians and specialists, and I'm in the process of getting genetic testing done. With autism comes developmental delays in many cases. Connor has a lot of testing done in school. He receives an IEP, which is more or less a plan on paper to reach his goals. Many services that are included on his IEP are occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech. He also has door-to-door transportation. He has a 1211 classroom that he's been in since kindergarten. Autism is just not a diagnosis, it's a way of life. It's learning to do things differently in ways that work for the child. These children only work differently in their minds. They're definitely different than you or I. Autism is not something that's diagnosed overnight. Most children are diagnosed till the age of 8. I took the appropriate steps to get Connor diagnosed, but it took teachers being on board to help. It took years of testing from the school. It took my pushing. It took multiple doctors sending in their evaluations. And in the end, Connor was diagnosed in August of 2018 at the age of, he just turned 8. But I knew for a long time that he had autism. I started from a young age though. I actually met with his pediatrician due to the fact that I had noticed that Connor wasn't meeting his milestone marks. He didn't mumble words. According to the CDC, he should have been saying "mama," "dada," "baba." Unfortunately, I didn't get to experience any of that with him. He would point. In that case, I actually taught him signs for food or more or thank you. That's kind of how I make communication with Connor. I proceeded to get Connor into his specialist every time that something changed on his IEP. But that actually did not even push things along. I still had to go up until August of last year, where we pulled him from Rochester and we took him to Buffalo. And within a matter of 2.5 hours, they came and were able to tell me that he was diagnosed. The CDC states if you're noticing that your child doesn't crawl, if they're searching for things that you've hidden and they can't find them, if they don't talk, if they're not waving or shaking their head no, they want you to contact them as early as possible. There's actually a website you can go to called If You're Concerned, or call 1-800-CDC-INFO. That could work for a parent, and that could work for anyone that's just wondering about the awareness and what it is. I had teachers come to my home since he was 2. He then attended a preschool up in Geneseo, and he rode a bus for 2 hours. That was probably one of the hardest days of my life, is dealing with that. I fought for a whole year to get it so he could be in Dansville. From there, he proceeded with the 12-1-1 from kindergarten, and now he's in 3rd grade. I knew that there was red flags all the way up, but unfortunately, to get Connor any kind of assistance or help, you have to have it on a piece of paper, unfortunately. When I received his diagnosis, I was upset. I didn't think I would cry because I'd known for years that Connor had different delays, and I was prepared, I thought, but the minute that he turned his head, I bawled my eyes out. The process can leave you drained, but a parent or advocate, we just keep moving. It's an emotional roller coaster. Lisa Jo Rudy from Very Health shared her story of coping with grief after receiving the diagnosis of autism for your child. She said, "It's an overwhelmed feeling of sadness, a grief of connection with a sense of loss." She even felt that some people have that feeling like they've lost their child. The grief magnifies the joy, though, because happiness is so much sweeter than experiencing sadness. Media and TV programs such as Sesame Street are sharing this awareness as well. And I hope that I left all of you feeling more knowledgeable about autism today. If you ever have any questions or you meet anyone that has questions, I would love to share my personal experience with them. Thank you.